Welcome to 2016 Presidential Candidate Interviews. Today I am interviewing Randall Lutz. Mr. Lutz is running as an independent. Hello, Mr. Lutz, and welcome to 2016 Presidential Candidate Interviews. Thank you for taking the time to participate. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing great. You can just call me Roy. Everybody does.
All right, we can do that. Are you ready for some get-to-know-you questions?
All set.
All right. Describe your family and your home life.
I live in Newport Richey, Florida, with my wife, Chris. Between the two of us, we have 8 grown children and 7 grandchildren.
Describe your employment and your work history.
Well, I've been in electronics. I have a bachelor's degree in electronic engineering and a master's degree in strategic planning. Started out some years ago, spent 4 years in the Air Force as a computer tech. I've been an electronic engineer. I've been an entrepreneur, business owner. I've had a couple of businesses. And more recently, I've been in social services, working with developmentally disabled people and doing job placement.
What are your hobbies and interests?
I write. I just completed my first novel a short while ago, trying to get that published. And I do a little video editing, photo editing on the side for fun.
Your favorite place to eat out?
Well, for steak, I like Longhorn Steakhouse here in Newport Richey, and there's a little restaurant around the corner, Central Park Cafe. I'd recommend to anybody living in the area. Great food, good prices, fantastic service. One of those places.
Do you have a favorite fast food joint?
Yeah, I'll probably, there's not too many I don't like. Taco Bell, Wendy's, Popeyes. I think if you took me into just about any fast food place, I could find something on the menu that I liked, unfortunately.
Do you have a favorite junk food?
Anything chocolate, anything peanut butter. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are kind of my staple diet.
Favorite TV shows and movies?
Well, on TV, I like to watch documentaries, historical documentaries, preferably. I like sci-fi movies, if they're good. TV shows like Humans and Extant, sci-fi shows I like.
Do you have any pets?
Yes, we have one cat who runs the house.
Okay. And the final get-to-know-you question. Can you name a song that you consider your life anthem, a motto, something that represents who you are?
Yeah, I don't think I can name a particular song. I'm more into instrumental music, movie soundtracks are my big thing. I like anything by Hans Zimmer, John Williams, big composers. I'm a sucker for female vocalists, anything with good lyrics.
Okay, and now on to the issues-based questions. Why are you running for president?
Well, I have people ask me that, and I think the best answer is I'm not really running for president, but I am running my principles for the presidency. I figure whether I get elected or not, which is, let's admit it, a long shot, I think my principles have a shot at getting elected, and it gives me a better soapbox if I'm a candidate. So that's primarily the reason that I am a candidate. I want to talk about principles, individual rights, limited government, constitutional law, peace through strength. These are things I want to talk about, and as president, those are things that I would want to make happen.
What abilities do you bring to the office of president?
Well, first and foremost, I have a passion for the truth. I think that's a prerequisite for the office, personally. I am a creative problem solver. I think I'm sensitive to the struggles of people who are less fortunate than I, people who perhaps weren't as lucky as I.
Do you have a president or two that you look on with favor who have aspects of their presidency you would try to emulate?
Well, I like Reagan, strong American principles, very articulate. Lincoln, also very articulate, man of conviction. I give him credit for ending slavery and making Martin Luther King's dream possible. Both were very articulate. I aspire to be as articulate.
Are there any presidents that you don't have a favorable opinion of who have aspects of their presidency you would not want to emulate?
We could talk about this for a long time. I don't like Obama. I don't like his style. I think it's dictatorial. I don't think he's for the Constitution, and he leans far to the left as a socialist, and I think he's just plain dishonest. I wouldn't want to emulate any of those traits. As a Republican, I'm not a Republican, but Nixon was a Republican, and I didn't like him either, and for different reasons. I think he didn't understand the difference between right and wrong, and just because something is, if the end is right doesn't mean the means are right. He didn't understand that difference. And then there's Bill Clinton. I thought that he brought shame on the presidency and the country for that matter.
Are there any functions of government you'd like to decrease or abolish?
Well, I'd like to cut way back on the power of various regulatory agencies and put the legislating back in the hands of Congress. I think Congress needs to have more of their power back and less of it given to regulatory agencies. I favor the fair tax that would take power away from the IRS. I favor vouchers for veterans and the inefficiencies of VA. If they can compete, then fine, but I think they ought to be able to go other places. The EPA stranglehold on the economy, I think that needs to be dismantled. And I think we should go back on the gold standard and cut the Federal Reserve's unconstitutional, I believe, ability to level an inflation tax on all of us by unfettered printing of fiat money.
Are there any functions of government you'd like to add to or increase? Is there anything that doesn't exist in the government that you think should exist?
Well, I'd like to restore the military to its previous strength. I think the weak kid on the playground gets beat up a lot, and I don't want to be that kid. I want to be the strong kid. If we have a strong military, I think we'd have to use it a lot less than we have in the past. Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Describe your stance on taxation.
Well, I think it was Ben Franklin that said the power to tax is the power to enslave. 100% tax is 100% slavery, so 50% tax would be like 50% slavery. I think we need to look at what is absolutely necessary to spend, and not simply give Washington all of our money and let them decide how to spend it. I don't think taxes should be levied for the purpose of redistributing wealth. I think they should be used for paying for national defense and infrastructure and that sort of thing. I don't believe that forced charity is a power that is given to the government through the Constitution. Charity is simply theft.
Describe your stance on the abortion and pro-choice issue.
An individual human life begins at conception. I don't see that as a belief or an opinion. That's scientific fact. You can debate whether one life is more valuable than another, but an individual life does begin at conception. And as such, I believe that all individuals are protected under the Constitution regardless of age or mental abilities or politically political correctness or whatever other measure that you want to put on it.
What role should our military play in the world?
As I said, you can only really have peace through strength. There's always going to be bullies. There are always going to be people who want to take power away from other people, and I think we have to be the big kid on the block. And for the world to be peaceful, we have to make it peaceful. Otherwise, tyrants and rogue regimes will simply take over.
How would you handle immigration and border security?
Well, I think it's one of the simpler problems. It seems to be debated a lot, but I think the easy answer to that is if you remove the incentives for people to come here illegally, undocumented, if you will, they won't come. If they can't get a green card legally, then if they don't get any free food, no free housing, no medical, no schooling, no jobs, and no birthright citizenship, they don't have much reason to be here, and either they will leave on their own or starve. And certainly people aren't going to be coming in if there's no jobs to be gotten and nothing else. I think that's far easier than building, 1,000-foot-high wall.
How do you perceive the issues of race and discrimination in America? Do we still face challenges?
Yeah, I think we face a lot of challenges. I think our bigger challenges is to reveal the race baiters for who they are, people who profit from fomenting racial strife. I think they should be prosecuted, and where prosecution isn't appropriate, they should be at least publicly shamed. I think there should be a discussion about race relationships and racism wherever it is, and whoever has it needs to be exposed. And I think that's the biggest thing, just exposing the racism, and people who say they're not racist, but in fact are racist, those are the people that are the most dangerous.
What role should the federal government play in health care?
Well, first of all, there's a bit of confusion. We all need to understand that health insurance is not health care, and there's a difference between the two. I think we need to eliminate third-party payer, especially when the third party is the government. We need to put the patient back in charge of their own health care and of the cost of their health care. I favor medical savings accounts for that.
Okay. What priority would you give repair of infrastructure? What role should the federal government have in maintaining infrastructure?
Well, I think it's the job of the federal government to maintain interstate transportation system, interstate communication system, perhaps. But most of the infrastructure issues, bridges and those kinds of things, are primarily a state issue. And I would leave it up to the states to handle most of that where it's not an interstate transportation issue.
Where do you stand on personal privacy and the need to protect your nation from terrorism? Some people think there's a conflict between maintaining personal liberty, personal rights, and gathering intelligence on terror.
Well, the Constitution is pretty clear on this. There needs to be due process, and if there is a reason why personal information needs to be exposed to authorities, then there needs to be a due process involved. The judge needs to look at it, needs to be approved. But mass collection of individual data puts just way too much power in the hands of government, and because of that power, it threatens individual rights and freedoms.
What role does faith, religion, spirituality, etc. play in your life? And what type of role would it play for you as president?
Well, I believe I'm a very spiritual person, but not in a traditional way. I think freedom of religion is the foundation of our individual rights. Freedom of religion must also include the freedom from religion, but I think without that freedom, we don't have freedom of really anything. If you don't have freedom of religion, you don't have freedom of speech, or as we're seeing, freedom of marriage, or a lot of other issues. That's where it starts. So I would be strongly in favor of separation of church and state.
Be a forecaster. Predict one or two major problems facing our country in the future that very few people or maybe no one is talking about. What would you do to prepare America for it?
Well, I believe the problem of creeping socialism is a big problem. It's getting to be a bigger problem, and it's stifling creativity. It's stealing the motivation for working hard and creating things. If you can't keep what you can create, then you stop creating it. New wealth production, things, the economy shrinks, and we see this if we look at the United States compared to the rest of the world. The countries that are doing the best are the ones that are the most competitive, and the ones that are most competitive are the ones that have the most freedom in the marketplace. The solution for that, I think, is simply just education. I think people just don't understand what the issues are. I personally know that I have a hard time finding anyone who's ever been to an economics class and has any understanding of how economics works, which is a big part of understanding how socialism works. If you don't understand economics, you can't understand socialism or capitalism for that matter. So I think education and having an open discussion is the solution to that. Another problem is the growing disdain for the Constitution and for the rule of law. We're becoming a country of men and not of laws, and that road leads to tyranny. I would, as president, challenge all unconstitutional laws. Anything that the federal government or the states are doing that don't comply with the Constitution, I would either challenge it or lead a movement to change it.
Everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses. Everybody has things that they're really good at, and everybody has things that they're not really good at. What are some of the things you're not necessarily good at, and what will you do to compensate for those?
Well, I'm not a career politician, and I think what goes along with that is I'm honest, and to a fault. I tend to say what I think, and I tend to mean what I say, and that can be a problem politically. And I believe the truth will always win out. However, I understand that politics are a reality in this world, and I would hire people that have maybe a little more finesse than I do to advise me on certain matters, just so that I don't get blindsided by an issue. But that wouldn't stop me from being myself.
Are there any other issues you would like to discuss that haven't been covered by the questions asked?
Well, there's a couple pet peeve issues that I kind of hammer on quite often. Minimum wage issue, it's a scam. The whole minimum wage issue is perpetrated for the purpose of distracting people from the real problems in the economy. Minimum wage simply kills unskilled jobs and forces them to be automated or sent out of the country. You can't control a price simply by saying it's something different. It'd be nice if I could control the price of my car if I'm going to sell it and charge, $50,000 for a $10,000 car, but the market won't let me, and the market won't let you change the price of what you charge for labor either. It's just common sense. The other issue that I keep coming back with is the same-sex marriage issue that getting a lot of attention right now. I think that's people are talking about the wrong issue. I don't believe government has any business in the personal relationship sanctioning business, period. Where in the Constitution does it say the government should be the arbiter of what is and what is not an acceptable personal relationship? I don't see it. So it's not a question of whether gay people can marry or not. It's a question of whether the government has anything to say about it at all, whether you're gay or not gay.
Okay, time for some closing remarks. In 2 minutes or less, tell us why we should vote for you, or vote for your principles, whatever. Well, I'm an independent, and that means I don't fall neatly into any other party platform. My principles are what I'm running on. Individual rights, limited government, Constitution, and the rule of law. I believe that the primary function of government is to protect individual rights and not to control every aspect of our lives. Okay, thank you, Roy, for participating in the interview. I'd like to thank my listeners for listening. Be sure to check back again in the future for more interviews. Have a good day, and remember to keep informed and keep involved. Thanks again, Mr.
Thank you.
Lutz.